All right, welcome back. Developments are taking place. Let me bring you up to date if you're just watching us. India has updated its position on the press conference yesterday, which restricted itself to special visas regarding under a SAARC category for Pakistani nationals. Now it's all Pakistani nationals, including medical visas. All of them stand expunged. No new fresh visas being issued. All Pakistani nationals are being asked to leave within 48 hours. Yesterday, the deadline for the existing special visa holders expires tomorrow. We have now been told that the Indian High Commission strength in Islamabad will be reduced from 55 to 30 by the 29th of April. So, about 25, so nearly half of our High Commission staff will be returning to India with their families. So, we are reducing the number of people available in Islamabad. Consequently, 25 of those here in the Pakistani High Commission will be asked to leave. Several of them have been announced and been declared persona non grata yesterday. Indian forces are now on high alert. The Pakistanis meanwhile have responded that any effort to divert the flow of the Indus rivers will be considered an act of war. Now, the reason they say any effort to divert the flow of rivers will be considered an act of war is because they are leaving it open ended. Obviously, we do not have the ability, physical infrastructural ability, to start to divert the flow of rivers tomorrow. That's something that can only be built over the next 5 or 10 years. Because if they had said holding the Indus water treaty in abeyance is an act of war, then by their own definition, India and Pakistan are already in a state of war as of last night. So, there is some clever speak here. I am just highlighting it for you so you understand what is going on. Let us open this up. General G. Dwivedi joining us on the broadcast. S.K. Sood is with us. Ambassador Sajjan is with us. I can see a few others as well. I'll bring them in as I'm confirmed that they are with us for the next 20-30 odd minutes. General Dwivedi, I've just put out the caveats for our viewers. Nothing we are discussing is on the basis of any operational information that we may or may not inadvertently have. If we have any operational information, we certainly won't be discussing it on television. We will not be discussing any troop movements. We will not be discussing any leave cancellations, any deployments, reserve deployments, nothing. I don't know this, but even if I did, I would not be. Whatever we are discussing is assessment and speculation on the basis of publicly available knowledge. Publicly available knowledge tells us that the enemy aliens, my words, not the government of India's, my terminology, enemy aliens have been asked to leave the country within 48 hours, all visas cancelled. Even those on medical visas asked to leave by 29th. Indian High Commission staff cut down by 50% by the 29th. Indian armed forces on high alert, and India's Prime Minister says we will hunt them down to the ends of the earth with unimaginable consequences. I think that the Indus Water Treaty is a long-term conversation and it is a sideshow to what is about to happen. What's your assessment, sir?
Absolutely, Rishabh. The Indo-Water Treaty is going to be a long term that we can implement because we don't have the wherewithal infrastructure. So that is actually a process that will take long time. No doubt about it. You're absolutely right. But some of the actions which have been taken and some will be in the offing, I'll just touch upon few of them. See, firstly, diplomacy and defense are two sides of the same coin. So it's a very I think feasible to start the diplomatic process, and I have some insight because I myself was defense attaché in China for 3 countries. So one of the action taken is to cut down the embassy staff by almost 50%.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. We have major breaking developments. I want to register them to take your further commentary on this and those of the guests. My colleague Megha Sharma joining us on the broadcast very shortly on this. We have a statement from the Pakistani, I am assuming foreign office, but from government. This is a written statement. Pakistan has decided to hold all bilateral agreements with India, including but not limited to the Simla Agreement, in abeyance. I repeat, Pakistan says it is holding the Simla Agreement in abeyance. Okay, suspending the Simla Agreement is their response. General Dwivedi, quick reaction. Okay, Megha is with us. Megha, what more do we know? General, I'm coming to you in a second. Megha, can you just read out the whole thing to us? What more do we know?
It's interesting to see that in a knee-jerk reaction, Pakistan comes out and makes a statement. It is decided to halt the Simla Agreement, suspend the Simla Agreement, till India desists from its manifested behavior of fomenting terrorism inside Pakistan, transnational killings, and non-adherence to international law and UN resolutions on Kashmir, which is quite laughable, because if this is the reason that Pakistan has been saying that it is going to decide to stop all sort of trade, all sort of transport, border shipment taking place between India and Pakistan, and why has it decided to take this moment after the terror attack that happened yesterday and the action that was taken by the Indian Foreign Ministry, the government of India, deciding to halt the water treaty, the Indus water treaty, degrade the diplomatic ties, ask the diplomats from Pakistan to be removed, ask the Indian nationals, Pakistani nationals from India to be removed. So it's quite laughable that in this knee-jerk reaction, the reasoning given by Pakistan is such.
No, Megha, it's going to become far more absurd. Okay, Siddharth, note this down and get a graphic put on our screens. Let me just identify for you what the consequence of suspending the Simla Agreement means. The Simla Agreement, ladies and gentlemen, signed in Shimla to end the 1970 war between Bhutto and Indira Gandhi, was a peace treaty. Okay. Now then, technically, if you suspended the Simla Agreement, means that the peace signed in July 1972 no longer exists. So I can argue that by the suspension of Simla Agreement, a state of war already exists between India and Pakistan, because the country has unilaterally suspended a peace treaty. The Simla Agreement, number 2, brought into force the recognition of the country of Bangladesh. So by suspending the Simla Agreement, Pakistan has immediately de-recognized the existence of Bangladesh. Number 3, the Simla Agreement brought into force diplomatically and bilaterally the existence of the line of control. If you suspend the Simla Agreement, well then guess what? The line of control doesn't exist. We are now free to walk in. I want to know which genius in Pakistan came up with this genius idea. I have just given you 3 consequences of the Simla Agreement being suspended. 1972 peace treaty no longer in force, which means the peace never happened. Now there is a precedent that exists for this, which is in Korea. There is a ceasefire between the north and south. There is no peace treaty. So technically the countries have been at war for the past 40-50 years. If you suspend the ceasefire, if you suspend the peace treaty of the Simla Agreement, that's the first, I'm assuming, unintended consequence. The second is the existence of the state of Bangladesh, which according to the Pakistanis no longer exists. And the third is the existence of the LoC, which also according to the Pakistanis now no longer exists. Quick reactions from across the board. General Dwivedi, I interrupted you first, then I see all the others. I see Group Captain Jha also. General Dwivedi.
Yeah, see, Rishabh, I think this is again one of the very childish act on the part of the Pakistani government, because Simla Agreement actually had 2-3 very fundamental key issues. Of course, it was a peace agreement, but it was also stated that any difference on our borders, on the line of control, will be actually settled by the dialogue. But Pakistan has violated this agreement repeatedly. After all, 1999, Kargil was one case in point. And secondly, this LoC is violated by the terrorists who come across from Pakistan. So therefore, I think the sanctity of the agreement as it is had been diluted, and this is just only a bravado sort of a act only in response to us. But as you also brought out about the Korean War, in fact, I was defense station in North Korea, visited the demilitarized zone number of times. Well, there's a different technical issue, because that was the war between multiple countries and North Korea and China. Yes, they have some kind of a demilitarized zone, but that is something like a LoC, but there's no comparison between what North Korean DMZ is and our LoC is. And my final point is, you see, we need to take a very pragmatic look as to what Pakistan is doing.
I'm sorry to interrupt the serious discourse you're having, sir, but forgive me, I can't stop laughing, because as I go deeper, this is what I remembered from the top of my head about the Simla Agreement, okay? But as I go deeper, as per the Simla Agreement, we returned 15,010 square kilometers of land to the Pakistanis. So if you suspend the Simla Agreement, well, that land is back to us. I'm sorry, I'm not processing this very rapidly.
Absolutely, that means the status quo that existed before the Simla Agreement.
Does this also mean that they return the 96,000 POWs, including Niazi?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, unfortunately, he's no longer in this world, but maybe his body can be exhumed and sent back to India, where he can be returned to an internment camp. If you heard absurdities, well, you just heard a new one. Let me try to open up this conversation. Several people are with us. Former ADG BSF SK Sood with us. Ambassador Ashok Sajanar is with us. Ambassador Sajanar, your quick thoughts, sir, on this. I'm trying to process it the best I can while keeping a straight face.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Rishabh, for having me on the show. Yeah, you are very right. I completely concur with you. All these aspects that you mentioned about the return of territory, about the return of 93,000 troops. This is what Pakistan is acting in a hurry, because it wants to show, two entities. One, its own people, that we are not phased. We are sort of, standing up to India. If they can do this, we can do that. And in the process, they are shooting themselves in the foot. So it's a knee-jerk reaction with no semblance, no significance whatsoever of any meaning or purpose to what they are doing.
No, but there is significance and meaning. Okay, I'll beg a further question with you, sir. In your assessment, and I know it's a rapid fire assessment, because you would not have imagined something like this happening either. So India's legal position, of course, is that Jammu and Kashmir in its entirety is an inalienable part of India, this Indian soil. We undertook an agreement, which is the bilateral agreement which we have thus far honored, which is called the Simla Agreement, which created the line of control as a ceasefire line, preceding which it was something informal which had never been created in any treaty that we recognized. So if the Simla Agreement as part of a unilateral decision does not hold, then the LoC doesn't exist. What does that make the legal position of the LoC, sir?
Yeah, basically, I think the LoC doesn't exist. The whole idea was that the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, that should be resolved through dialogue, that should not be resolved through confrontation, and that should be resolved through a bilateral dialogue. We shouldn't be taking it to international fora. We shouldn't be taking it to the United Nations, and as General Dwivedi just said, as one would put it in Hindi, as far as Pakistan is concerned, उन्होंने जो सिमला अग्रीमेंट के इतने सालों में परखच्चे उड़ा दिए हैं, because they have been going to every international fora in total complete violation of the Simla Agreement, that will not go to any international fora.
I'm alluding something else. Ambassador Sajanar, have they just done us a huge favor by unilaterally revoking the Simla Agreement?
Yeah, true. Yeah, coming to that, of course, meaning if that doesn't exist, that means...
So the LoC doesn't exist.
We can claim it to be a part of our territory.
I mean, you and I can technically walk across tomorrow because it's Indian soil and the LoC doesn't exist. Legally now, the LoC simply doesn't exist. I know physically, of course, it's a different conversation, but legally, it doesn't exist. Unilateral action. I want to go across the board. I'll come back to you in a second, sir, because there are going to be very interesting consequences to this. Which we are going to have to digest, because I'm still smiling about this. So give me a second. I think Group Captain Jha wants to make a point in interjection. Group Captain Jha, how do you digest this latest bit of diplomacy?
Well, you laughed. I kept on laughing here itself. Look, it cannot be done unilaterally, because Simla Agreement has got the ramifications. There are 2 or 3 UN regulations, UN Resolution 303 and 307. That ratifies Simla Agreement, and LoC has been made in accordance with this. Secondly, if this resolution goes, then Bangladesh doesn't exist, then the Awami League and not Awami League, that time it was the
Mukti Bahini.
Mukti Bahini
is still in force.
Whose legacy is with right now Hasina, and India possesses that particular land, what is called Bangladesh, because Indian army had conquered the entire land and made Pakistani forces to surrender. So that comes to India. And thirdly, the least one is that on the lost grounds what we had, we get the entire LoC and the entire access to the entire J&K that comes to us. So well done, Pakistan. It's a good step that you have taken. Mr. Sajanhar has said that they have shot themselves in the foot.
You know, for all
Mr.
the
Sajanhar,
people who for
Mr.
so many
Sajanhar-
decades criticized Indira Gandhi for signing the Shimla Agreement, only today.
I'll just like to rectify Mr. Sajanhar's statement. They have not shot on in their own foot. They have shot in their pelvis. Where it will hurt the maximum.
No,
So-
it's being shot in the gut is a very slow way and painful way of dying. I think it's going to be fast. Let me get Mr. Sood's response to this, because we are living in historic times. Who would have thought, Mr. Sood, that for all we've criticized Indira Gandhi for actually handing over the POWs and agreeing to Bhutto and signing the Shimla Agreement, only to be told in the past 1 hour that as far as the Pakistanis are concerned, the Shimla Agreement is null and void, does not exist. Your thoughts?
I would request you to please clarify whether they have said it is null and void, or
I'll read out exactly, sir. Statement from the Pak Prime Minister's office. Pakistan
saying-
shall exercise the right to hold all bilateral agreements with India, including but not limited to the Shimla Agreement, in abeyance till
Abeyance.
India desists from its manifested behavior of fomenting terrorism inside Pakistan. Shall exercise, not may exercise. It says shall exercise.
So 2 points. Number one, you said Bangladesh then disappears. No, Shimla Agreement, to my knowledge, nowhere talks of Bangladesh. Shimla Agreement is between India and as then existing Pakistan. So that is one issue to be. And you're right, ceasefire line, the legal sanctity of ceasefire line is that both the commanders who were commanding those areas have signed the maps and exchanged them. So it is not demarcated on the ground, but it is delineated on the maps. So having held those agreements in abeyance, we would be able to walk through is, I think, a very hypothetical situation. Similarly, they cannot walk through to the Indian side. Because-
Obviously,
so-
I'm not suggesting that you and I
Yeah.
get on board a horse and walk and simply trot
Yes,
across.
yes, yes.
But
So-
in legal terms, that's what the criticism of Indira Gandhi was. That up until that date, there was no legal recognition for the ceasefire line. It was given the legal recognition of line of control in the Shimla Agreement. That was my point. Finish your thoughts, sir.
Yeah, so it was prior to that it was CFL. It is now a line of control. Prior to that it was known as ceasefire line. So that's a somehow I am not too sure what will happen in that area. But of course it gives them a handle, and it also gives us a handle to sort of end the informal ban on the cross LC firing that we have been witnessing for last few years, and that we have witnessed. And so I assume that by derecognizing or holding the ceasefire line Shimla Agreement in abeyance, the activity on LC will aggravate. We should be looking at it from this point of view. They would now be supporting more infiltration into India.
Okay, let me read it out as it exists for our viewers as well as our guests, because I'm sure we didn't wake up this morning to read the Shimla Agreement, but here we are. This is it on your screens. This is from as published by the Ministry of External Affairs. Legal treaties, Shimla Agreement, point number 4. In order to initiate the process of establishment of durable peace, both the governments agree that 1. India and Pakistani forces shall be withdrawn to their side of the international border. If you hold this agreement in abeyance, well, make an assessment. This clause becomes null and void. In Jammu and Kashmir, the line of control resulting from the ceasefire of December 17, 1971 shall be respected by both sides without prejudice to the recognized position of either side. Neither side shall seek to alter it unilaterally, irrespective of mutual differences and legal interpretations. Both sides further undertake to refrain from the threat or the use of force in violation of this line. This, I am told, is now in abeyance. The withdrawal shall commence upon entry into force of this agreement. So, the Indian withdrawal, for example, from the outskirts of Lahore, were mandated by the Shimla Agreement. The Indian withdrawals from East Pakistan were mandated by the Shimla Agreement. Okay, this agreement will of course be subject to ratification by both countries in accordance to their respective constitutional procedures. Can we just also remind you that what happened to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto after he signed this agreement? He found himself very shortly in a jail cell and hanged. Last point, point number 6. Both governments agree that their respective heads will meet again in a mutually convenient time in the future, and that in the meanwhile, the representatives of the two sides will meet to discuss further the modalities and arrangements for the establishment of durable peace and normalization of relations, including the questions of repatriation of prisoners of war and civilian internees, a final settlement of Jammu and Kashmir, and the resumption of diplomatic relations. So, the Simla Agreement, while it does not mandate the issue of POWs, it does in point number 6 say that the modalities and arrangements for the return of these POWs shall now commence. Signed of course by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and Indira Gandhi, 2nd of July 1972. Let me get General Dwivedi back into this. General Dwivedi, this is a quick ready reckoner update for all of us. So now we are told this doesn't exist.
I have a quick point to make.
Yes, go ahead sir, go ahead.
See, in 1972, when the Simla Agreement was signed, East Pakistan didn't exist. It was already Bangladesh. So, saying that Bangladesh goes doesn't sound logical. That's all.
Okay. We will leave it to interpretation. Obviously, Bangladesh is not going to become East Pakistan tomorrow because somebody in Islamabad decided that they don't like the 1972 Simla Agreement. Obviously not. In practical terms, that's not a reality. All right. So we are living in a practical world. That's not the reality of the world. I am just referring to you the obscenity of what is taking place. It is only after the Simla Agreement was signed in July of 1972, 6 months, 8 months in fact, after the war concluded in Bangladesh, that Pakistan, which is West Pakistan, recognized the existence of Bangladesh as a new country. They surrendered Dhaka in December 71. That does not mean that the next morning they recognized Bangladesh as a free independent country and changed their maps and ceased calling it East Pakistan. That happened after the signing of the Simla Agreement. There is a causal link, and that's what I've been referring to, just for information for people watching. General Dwivedi, so now I was trying to have a different conversation, but now we are absorbing a development. So if you are Pakistan, other than trying to impress your awam that we are taking a small, very hard course of action because the Indus Water Treaty has been held in abeyance last night, so we've got to respond. तुम Indus नहीं करते तो हम Simla Agreement बाहर फेंक देते हैं. Then of course, you know, who knows, articles of accession, everything can be thrown. You know, maybe the Constitution of Pakistan can be thrown and held in abeyance. Anything is possible. Why are they doing this?
Well, Bishop, I think first and foremost, this action is tit for tat. It is basically symbolic action in retribution to our holding the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance. So I think that is the ground position. But it has an impact. Impact is that we have a ceasefire agreement which was instituted in 2003, and that agreement will now get violated. That doesn't hold any ground, because once you don't recognize the line of control, then it can be violated at will. The second point is that its sanctity was there because it was considered as a de facto border. Now that sanctity is gone. So therefore, either side can violate it at will. Now that will be the actually ground position, and as rightly pointed by one of the panelists, that there will be a quite enhanced activity on the LoC, because now it will be free for all, and therefore we can expect a very hot LoC, because when I was commanding the brigade there, the LoC was very hot, and it was only in 2003 that agreement was signed, and it was again, I think, reconfirmed about 3 years back. So I think that this connotation on the ground is that we are going to see a lot of activity on the LoC, and both sides will be contesting the LoC, because now
I'm just curious, sir, because the Simla Agreement, which as per ratification from both sides came into effect on the 4th of August 1972, does not contain any mechanism for it to be rescinded. I do not see any clause here that allows for the rescinding. Now of course you can choose to respect or not respect bilateral agreements. We can choose the same, but there is no clause here that says that it can be rescinded by one party or both parties, or both parties have to meet, or they have to go to arbitration. Nothing. It doesn't mention any of this.
Absolutely. But
okay.
In 1999, Pakistan actually violated in entirety when they came into Kargil.
Yeah,
so therefore,
of course. I mean,
therefore
yeah, of
the
course,
LoC
every shot across the LoC, every infiltration across the LoC is a violation of the Simla Agreement. So I'm
Yes.
not assuming that the Simla Agreement for 1 second was a great achievement by India. Okay, nobody has for many decades. I just mentioned that Indira Gandhi is criticized for having signed the Simla Agreement, for having handed over the 96,000 POWs, including the Commander-in-Chief, Niazi, to the Pakistanis, to the West Pakistanis, without having settled the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. So it's not that we were big fans of the Simla Agreement, but now there are some unintended consequences which I have put out to you. Okay, let's General Dwivedi, before I get the other guests who are joining us, I want a quick thought with you to our original point of conversation. Okay, so the Indus Water Treaty is not the unimaginable consequence, for the primary reason that we don't have the projects that can tomorrow morning shut down all water going to Pakistan. We can start building them tomorrow, but 5 to 10 years it'll take. The real stuff is yet to go down. Now something is going to happen. What do you suspect it is?
I think Rishabh, what we are looking at is there will be certain retribution as far as the military is concerned, and I'm sure the war rooms are very active, and I in certain positions that such planning takes time because there needs a lot of coordination, and you have to think through. And that is not the first move that you make. You have to think through the end state. So I think that there will be definitely retribution. It will be overwhelming. It will convey right message. It will not be rap on the knuckles.
Okay, bigger than Uri Balakot, sir.
Second?
Bigger than Uri Balakot. Your best guess.
Yes, it will be in different form because in armed forces we never repeat the past template. So Balakot will be a gone history. There will be some other thing which will come into place because we never fight the next war with the old template. So you will be, I think, in for a big surprise. Something different will happen. But the impact, I am talking about the impact, will be very close, and it will shake up definitely the GHQ in Rawalpindi as also the political leadership in Islamabad.
Okay, Rajan Khanna is with us. General Dwivedi, thank you for your time. I'm going to let you go.